Yeah, hello and welcome to yet another episode of Ancient History. As you all know, my name is Ijaz Ahmed. So let's get started. But before starting with another episode of Ancient History, I want to share with you guys, something very important. So let's get started. So, as you all know, you can join either of these two groups. Okay, you can join our WhatsApp group as well as you can join our Telegram group. And if you join these two groups, you will be getting the PDF of today's class as well as you can stay updated regarding a lot of things. Okay, these are the two things. So immediately I would request you to join these two groups. You can join these two groups, and the link in order to join these two groups, the link has been shared in the description below. So I will once again request you guys, friends, to go to the description and click on the link. The moment you click on the link, you can join these two groups. Now, I also want to share another very wonderful initiative that has been brought by Civil Services Achievers Point for the benefit of the student community, and that wonderful initiative is Interview Guidance Program for APAC CCE 2022. Under this interview guidance program has got a lot of legs. Okay, it has a lot of aspects. So among all these aspects, some of the aspects have already started. As you all know, interview is fast approaching. And in order to test your, in order to test how powerful, or in order to test your interview skills, in order to polish your skills, in order to ensure that you go through the last stage, of the APAC examination, the APAC Civil Service examination, I would request you to come and check. I would request you to come and evaluate yourself in our mock interview sessions which are going on and which will continue till 30th of November 2023. The mock interviews are already underway, and the mock interviews will be conducted by some of the most renowned personalities of not just Assam but also of India, including Sri Anil Swarup sir, who is a retired IAS officer. He is a retired IAS officer. He was also the former Coal Secretary of India and is also an accomplished author. He has written many wonderful books. Okay, apart from him, there will be Robin Kolita sir. Robin Kolita sir is IRTS retired. He was the former director of IRCTC, and he was also former external member of the APSC interview board. Apart from it, we will also be having in our interview panel Sri Omiyo Kumar Bora sir, who was the former APSC chairman. Apart from him, we will also be having Sri Rajdeep Lekharu sir, who is the founder and who is the chairman and who is the director of Civil Services Achievers Point. And of course, there will be Sri Jepul Riz Kolita sir, and there will be myself. We both are senior faculties of Civil Services Achievers Point, and we will make sure to give you the amount of confidence that is very much needed in order to crack the last round of personal interview. Okay, that is the one last step towards your journey. That is the one last step in your journey, to become a civil service officer. So now let's get started with the class. So in my last class, I was talking about Indica. I was talking about Indica as a source. I remember talking about Indica as a source, and how Indica as a source is useful for us. So I must have told you, see, Indica is important for a few factors. Number one, what did I say? Number one, Indica is important because, and as we all know, Indica was authored by whom? Indica was authored by Megasthenes. Indica was authored by a person known as Megasthenes. Okay? He was the author of Indica. Megasthenes was the author of Indica. Who was Megasthenes? Megasthenes was a Greek ambassador. Okay, and Megasthenes had visited Mauryan Empire during the reign of Chandragupta Maurya, the founder himself. So Megasthenes, while he came to India and while he stayed in India, he wrote a wonderful account of India. And we can learn a lot many things. About the Mauryan Empire from this wonderful account of Megasthenes. Now, what are those things? Number one. Now, see, Indica is a comprehensive account, but we do not have to know each and everything which has been talked about by Megasthenes as Indica. We do not have to know. We do not have to burden ourselves with each and everything that has been mentioned in Indica by Megasthenes. But some of the things are very, very important, and we have to know those things. Like, for example, number one, in Megasthenes, in Indica, Megasthenes talks about 7 classes. In Indica, Megasthenes talks about 7 classes of people whom he encounters. He says that, he tells us that Indian society was divided into 7 classes. Like for example, Indian society was divided into 7 classes. Like for example, he tells us or he informs us that there was a class of philosophers, then there was a class of farmers, okay, etc., etc., etc. This is the first useful information that we obtain from Indica. Now, the thing is that although Megasthenes talks about 7 classes of people, but we have to take this bit of information with a grain of salt. Okay, we cannot take this blindly. We cannot digest this information completely. Because, why? Because we already know. See, what I'm trying to say is, this bit of information doesn't seem to be authentic enough. It doesn't seem to be credible enough. We cannot buy this on face value. Why? We cannot buy this on its face value because we already know by this time Indian society was divided into 4 castes. The concept of class was not there in India. Indian society was not divided in the form of classes, but it was divided in the form of caste. And the number was also lesser than 7. The number was 4 because we know already Indian society was divided in the form of 4 castes: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. We know it already. But here Megasthenes is talking about 7 classes which cannot be accepted. So although he is giving us a valuable piece of information, but we can be very sure about the fact that Megasthenes must have misunderstood. He must have confused. Megasthenes, he must have confused the caste system. Okay, he must have confused the, he must have confused the caste system with, or you can also say he must have confused the 4 castes with 7 classes. Okay, for example, the caste or the class he mentions as philosophers. The class he mentions as philosophers must have been, in actuality or in reality, it must have been the Brahmins. But he could not identify the Brahmins as a separate caste. He identified them as philosophers. Why am I making a connection? Why am I trying to establish a connection between philosophers and Brahmins? Because during those times, Brahmins were the only educated caste. All the other castes were deprived of education. So they were the only ones who were educated. So he must have mistaken, he must have confused Brahmins with philosophers. In reality, it should have been Brahmins, not philosophers. So this is the reason why we cannot accept it, why we cannot accept this bit of information which has been given to us by Megasthenes, where in Indica. Then the second bit of information, Megasthenes again informs us, Megasthenes again tells us, he says that India doesn't have any slaves. Doesn't have slaves. Now this again seems a bit doubtful. This bit of information also seems doubtful, and it has been highly contested by historians. Why has it been highly contested by historians? Because we already know. See, Megasthenes is saying us, okay, Megasthenes is telling us that India doesn't have any slaves. It is Megasthenes who is telling us that India does not have any slaves. But why cannot we accept it? Why cannot we buy this information? Or why does this information appear a bit doubtful? Why cannot we why cannot we be very sure about this? Because we already know that at this point in time India had slaves. India had the concept of slaves. On the other hand, Megasthenes is saying that India did not have any slaves. So where is the confusion? Where is this confusion? Where is this confusion coming from? And why is this confusion coming from? The reason is very simple. According to historians, Megasthenes, because he was a Greek. See, he was a Greek, right? He was a Greek. He was a follower of the Greek culture. He came from the Greek society. He was a part of the Greek society. Now, because he was a part of the Greek society, he will be influenced by the customs. He will be influenced by whatever he saw in the Greek society. As simple as that, quite obviously. So, at that point in time, the Greek society had a very well demarcated slavery system. Okay, what did I say? At that point in time, the Greek society had a very well demarcated concept of slavery. Greek society hekhini homoyot junkhini slaves asil, the slaves who were there, or the concept of slavery was very much present, and it was present in a very, very strict form in the Greek society. What do I mean by strict form? I am trying to say that the condition of slaves was very, very poor in the Greek society. The treatment being meted out to slaves was very, very, it was unthinkable. Their condition was very poor. So the Greek society had this concept of masters and slaves. They had this concept of masters and slaves which was deeply embedded in their psyche, which was deeply embedded in their culture. And the masters used to treat their slaves very, very harshly and very, very inhumanely. But the thing is that, so Megasthenes came from such a culture where he grew up seeing the ill condition, where he grew up seeing the absolutely poor condition of the slaves. So he was used to seeing that version of the slaves. But when he came to India, he could not identify the slaves in India. He could not identify the slaves in India because India had slaves. But why did he fail to identify them? Because the condition of slaves in India was far, far better. The condition of slaves in India was far better than the condition of slaves in the Greek culture or in the Greek society at that point in time. So because the condition of slaves in India was far, far better than that of the slaves in the Greek society, he could not identify the slaves in Indian society. He thought these are not slaves, these are just normal people. But the concept of slavery was present in India also, but their condition was not as bad as that of the slaves who were present in the Greek society. Okay, so why this bit of information is important? This bit of information is important. So again, this bit of information also cannot be accepted wholeheartedly. We cannot accept, we cannot agree with Megasthenes as far as this is concerned. Okay? Yeah, so now let's come to the most interesting part, that is number 3. Now this bit of information which has been given to us by Megasthenes in Indica is very important. And this information, the third most valuable piece of information that he is talking about is, he is talking about, or he is giving us an idea about what? He is giving us an idea, Megasthenes in Indica is giving us an idea about the city administration. He is giving us an idea about the city administration of Patliputra. He is giving us an idea about the city administration of Patliputra and also about military administration. Am I clear? Okay. I will come to that part where I will tell you exactly what is it talking about. But just for your understanding, these are the two things he touches upon. He gives us an idea. He gives us an idea about the city administration of Patliputra, as well as he gives us an idea about the military administration. Okay, military administration. Now, let's talk about these two things one by one. Now, Now talking about the city administration. What is it talking about under city administration? What is Megasthenes talking about under city administration? He is saying that, see, he is giving us a picture about how Patliputra was being administered. He is informing us as to how Patliputra was administered, and he tells us that Patliputra was administered by 6 committees. He talks about 6 committees. He talks about what? He talks about how many committees? 6 committees. These 6 committees have 5 members each. He is talking about what? He is talking about 6 committees having 5 members each. So, he is informing us that there were 6 committees, and each of the 6 committees had 5 members each. And all these 6 committees, they used to look after what? They used to look after the city administration of Patliputra. Now, if I have to tell you the roles and responsibilities of those 6 committees, then for example, let's say Megasthenes informs us again that there was a committee which used to look after what? There was a committee which used to look after, let's say, birth and death registration. Which used to look after birth and death registration. Megasthenes is informing us that there was a committee which used to look after birth and death registration. And see, this birth and death registration, some of you might be well aware of the fact that today also we maintain a registration of the number of births and number of deaths, and that job is being done by the municipalities. Yes or no? So see, this is a function which has always been important, which has always been integral, or which has always been part of the administration. Okay, and during the Mauryan period, we had a committee which used to look after this. Then he also informs us there was another committee which used to conduct what? Which used to do things like conducting census. Census. As we all know, census is what? Census is, census is an estimation of the population. So that was also a part of the administration back then, and it's still today. Still today, it is a part of the administration. Okay, then again there was another committee which was devoted to what? There was another committee which was devoted to ensuring basic amenities. There was another committee which was devoted to ensuring what? Basic amenities, like, or the word amenity here means what? Basic facilities, like for example, safe drinking water, okay, proper lighting and all that, okay, proper roads. All these functions are important today also. Don't you think? All these functions are important today also. So back then also, these functions were important. But there is one thing I want to draw your kind attention to. Okay, there is one thing I want to draw your attention to, and that one thing is what? That one thing is the fact that there was a special committee. That there was a special committee dedicated to one thing, and that one thing is what? And this one thing is very interesting. There was one committee which was dedicated to the safety. There was one committee which was dedicated to the safety and comfort of the travelers. There was one committee which was dedicated to the safety and comfort of the travelers. Now, why is this important? Why this is very important for us? Everything else is also important, but this is a bit more important than the rest of them. Why? Now the question arises, why? Why? Because see, we know that they had a separate committee dedicated to this purpose. What was its job? Its job was to ensure the safety and comfort of the travelers. Now travelers, so based on this we can say that travelers were treated very specially, and every bit of care was, taken to ensure they had a comfortable and safe stay in the Mauryan Empire. And travelers during those times basically came to Mauryan Empire primarily for trading purpose. So all these were what? All these were traders. So basically I'm using the word travelers for traders. Traders used to come, traders used to come to the Mauryan Empire. They used to come to the Mauryan Empire from other kingdoms, or let's say from other geographical regions. They used to come to the Mauryan Empire, and there was a committee which was devoted to what? To ensuring safety and security and comfort of those travelers or those traders coming into Mauryan Empire. It also tells us, it is also an indication of the fact that a lot of trading was happening. A lot of trading was happening between Mauryan Empire and other kingdoms and other parts of the world. Otherwise, why would the traders come to Mauryan Empire? As we all know in English, there's a very famous saying and axiom by the name of what? Necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity is the mother of invention. Unless and until there is a need, nothing happens. In this case, there was a need. What was the need? There was a great influx of travelers. There was a great influx of traders swarming in. There was a great influx of travelers coming into the Mauryan Empire. Now, we needed a special committee. We needed an exclusive committee to look after them. So we had a committee. So it is a clear indicator of the fact that a lot of trading was happening between Mauryan Empire and other geographical regions. That's a very important point. That gives us an idea about the kind of trading that was happening. Now let's talk about military administration. Now, as far as military administration is concerned, Megasthenes is again highlighting the fact that there were how many committees? There were again 6 committees. As far as military administration is concerned, Megasthenes is once again highlighting the fact that there were 6 committees having how many members? There were 6 committees having 5 members each. There were 6 committees having 5 members each. So for the city administration of Patliputra also there were 6 committees having 5 members each. For military administration also there were 6 committees having 5 members each as per Megasthenes. And these 6 committees, they used to discharge various functions. For example, one committee was dedicated to what? One committee was dedicated to army, one was dedicated to navy, one was dedicated to, let's say, infantry, one may have been dedicated to elephantry, which was a very important part of the Mauryan army. Then there may have been another committee dedicated to cavalry. All these are important wings of the army, right? All these are important wings. Navy, infantry, elephantry, cavalry. All these are important wings. So the 6 committees that Megasthenes is talking about, for military administration or under military administration used to look after all these departments. Each of them had a separate responsibility. Now this was what? This was Indica as a source of information. Now, this was what? This was Indica as a source of information, which is very, very important. Which is what? Which is very, very important. Now, let's talk about another very interesting thing. As well as very, very important thing, and that is Mauryan administration. Mauryan administration. Mauryan administration. See why this is important, because Mauryan Empire, it was, as we all know, it was India's first empire. It was Chakravartin Samrat, it was Chakravartin Kshetra in the words of Chanakya himself. It was India's first Chakravartin Kshetra. This is the word which was used by Chanakya in Arthashastra for empire. We know that Mauryan Empire was India's first empire. And obviously, if an empire has to be administered, you need a lot of officers, you need a whole lot of officers. So Mauryan administration was run by countless number of what? Bureaucrats. Okay, Mauryan Empire, Mauryan administration relied on the efficiency of the countless number of bureaucrats. It was dependent on a number of officers. It had officers for each department. Because it was very necessary to divide the functions among all the officers. So they used to have departments also. And each department had a number of, there was a clear-cut hierarchy of officers. There was a clear-cut hierarchy of bureaucrats, like the way we see today. There's a clear-cut hierarchy, right, in the administration. The same was present during the Mauryan administration. There was a clear-cut hierarchy. Even among the officers, even among the bureaucrats, there was a clear-cut hierarchy. So there was what? There was Mauryan administration. Like I said, it relied on what? It relied on, or it was run by a lot of bureaucrats. It was run by a lot of bureaucrats. Okay, there were bureaucratic officers in each and every step, in each and every department. And even within each of the departments, there were many other bureaucratic officers. So a lot of bureaucrats were there, lot of bureaucrats. And obviously, since we are talking about a lot of bureaucrats, we are talking about a lot of officers, they have to be paid well. Okay, they have to be what? They have to be given salaries. They have to be given salaries on time, or they have to be given monthly salaries. That monthly salary needs what? That monthly salary, the fact that they were given monthly salaries on time, or they were given salaries on time, means that a lot of Mauryan army was actually a very well-to-do, or Mauryan empire was actually a very well-to-do empire. It was earning a lot. Only because it was earning a lot, it was able to what? It was able to keep its officers happy. It's very important to keep your employees happy. Because if the officers are not happy, how will they contribute towards the overall well-being and growth and development of the Mauryan Empire? Which they did. So, you see, eta bostur porai kebatao bostu kobo paro. And that is what you guys as thinkers have to do, at least in history. Okay, now, so, lot of bureaucrats. Apart from this, we also hear of the presence. We also get to know of the presence of what? We also get to know of the presence of some kind of a central secretariat. We also get to know. We also have some evidence. We have gathered some evidence. Which indicates the presence of a central secretariat. Okay, we have gathered some evidence which hints towards the presence of a central secretariat at Patliputra. Central secretariat at Patliputra. Okay. Central Secretariat at Patliputra. This Central Secretariat also had a lot of departments. Okay, like for example, if you go to the Assam Secretariat, which is in Dispur, you will find that the Secretariat has been divided in the form of departments. Okay, keeping in mind, or whatever keeping in mind, or whatever work, if you have some work in the secretariat, you will go only to that department you have your work in. You will not go to all the departments, or you will not go to any department. So that is the point. That is the point in having so many departments, so that it will save a lot of time, so that people who know, so people have to know about these departments, and without wasting their time and energy, they can visit the department they have work in, rather than moving from pillar to post. It saves a lot of time and energy, right? Besides making their lives a bit more convenient and comfortable and hassle-free. That's the word. So anyway, so we know that there was a central secretariat. Okay, there's a strong possibility. We cannot be very sure, but there is a strong possibility that there was a central secretariat which was further divided in the form of departments. Now, okay, after this, we have to know that, we also know the fact that Mauryan Empire was divided into 5 provinces. Mauryan Empire was divided into 5 provinces. Because why am I talking about all these things? I am talking about all these things because I am trying to give you an idea about the Mauryan administration. Mauryan administration. How did they run the administration? It's very important for us to know this. So, in order to make their lives easier, because they have to administer such a huge area. We all know Mauryan Empire was very huge. Okay, it used to cover a huge part of India, if not the entire India, if not the present day India. Parts of present day Pakistan and Afghanistan were also a part of the Mauryan Empire. Okay, so anyways, so they divided the provinces into 5. They divided the empire into 5 provinces. There were 5 provinces. Okay, and we have to know the names of these provinces also. Number one, Magad. Okay, we have been talking about Magad ever since the age of Mahajanapada, so we are well familiar with Magad. But what is the difference between Magad as a Mahajanapada and Magad as a province? So during the age of Mahajanapadas, we spoke about Magad as a Mahajanapada. Okay, it was itself a kingdom, Magad. But now we are talking about the Mauryan Empire, and Magad is just one part of the Mauryan Empire. Magad is not Mauryan Empire. Do not make that mistake. Magad is just the name of one of the provinces of the Mauryan Empire. Of course, the most important province, because Magad also had the capital of the Mauryan Empire, and the capital of this province was Patliputra. Okay, provinces can be compared with modern day states like Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur, okay, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Ibilak. These are provinces. Okay, provinces of those times can be compared with modern day states. Now, so Magad, this was the first province. Then Uttarpat. We have heard of Uttarpat during the age of Mahajanapada also, but now the meaning will slightly change. Now Uttarpat will become the name of a province. Uttarpat. Uttarpat's capital was Gandhar. Then Dakhinpat. Dakhinpat's capital was Suvarnagiri. Suvarnagiri was in Andhra. See, Patliputra today is in Bihar. We know that, so I have not mentioned it. It is very easy. Gandhar today is, let's say, in Pakistan. Okay. Then the 4th province was Avantipat. And the capital of Avantipat was Ujjain. It should not be very difficult on your part to remember these names, because we have come across most of these names, maybe in some other form during the age of Mahajanapadas. Like for example, during the age of Mahajanapada, Avanti was the name of a Mahajanapada, and the name of one of its capitals was Ujjain. The same thing, now it has become Avantipat, the capital is Ujjain. Ujjain is in MP, we all know that. Today Ujjain is a part of Madhya Pradesh. And the last province was Prajapat. Yeah, this is why. Just 1 second. Prajyapat. And the capital of Prajyapat, okay, and the capital of Prajyapat was Toshali. And the capital of Prajyapat was Toshali. See, now I want you guys, okay, I want you guys to know one thing. I want to share some information with you. See, please keep this in mind. Please keep this in mind that these are the names of the 5 provinces with the names of their capitals, right? Out of these 5 provinces, the one you see at the very last, that is Prajyapat. Now this is one province, or this is the province which was added to the list of provinces only after the Battle of Kalinga. Before the Battle of Kalinga, there was no province called Prajyapat. Prajyapat was added as a separate province only after the Battle of Kalinga. Prajyapat. So you see Toshali today it lies in Odisha. And this province, this Prajyapat, was added to the Mauryan Empire as a separate province only after the Battle of Kalinga. Okay, so these were the 5 provinces that Mauryan Empire was divided into. These were the 5 provinces, very, very important. Magad, Uttarpat, Dakshinpat, Avantipat and Prajyapat. Okay, now that we know the names of the provinces, we also have to know about the fact that each of these provinces, okay, for example, if this was a province, this province was further divided into what? This province was further divided into districts. Like the way states today are divided into districts, districts are then divided into blocks, blocks then are divided into villages. So, province was divided into districts. Okay, province was divided into districts. Each province had many districts, and each district, province was divided into districts. Okay, and each district, each of the districts had 3 officers. 3 officers played a very important role in administering or in running a particular district. 3 officers. Number 1 and the most important was Pradeshika. He was the senior most. Okay, Pradeshika, for example, can be compared with what? Pradeshika, for example, can be compared with DC, Deputy Commissioner. Okay, Pradeshika, he is the senior most officer in a district. He used to be the senior most officer of a district. Pradeshika, then okay, Pradeshika, like I said, he was the senior most officer. Okay, he was the senior most officer of a particular district. He was the senior most officer. Second, right after Pradeshika, there was another officer by the name of Rajuka. He was the second in hierarchy. Okay, remember I stated at the very beginning that there was a clear-cut hierarchical division also, even among the officers. So this division can once again be seen when we talk about who runs a district. So the senior most officer was Pradeshika. The next in hierarchy, okay, the next in hierarchy came Rajuka. Okay, he was second to Pradeshika. He was the second most powerful person, or he was the second most important person in a district, Rajuka. And the name of the third officer was Yukta. Who was Yukta? Yukta acted as a secretary. Yukta acted as a secretary. So Pradeshika, Rajuka and Yukta, these are the names of the 3 most important officers of a particular district of the Mauryan Empire. Okay, then see this particular division, okay, 5 provinces. This is one way to look at the Mauryan Empire, that Mauryan Empire was divided into 5 provinces. There is another way to look at the Mauryan Empire. Are you guys getting me? What am I saying now? I am saying that this is just one way, this is just one division, this is just one way of dividing the Mauryan Empire, not the only way. The fact that there were 5 provinces is only one way to look at the Mauryan Empire. There is another way which is very, very important. There is another way which is very important. Now, here I have to talk about a very prominent historian by the name of Roma Taer. I may have spoken about her in one of my previous classes also. Roma Taer. She is one of the greatest authorities. Roma Taer is one of the greatest authorities on ancient Indian history. Okay, she has done extensive study on the life and career and political achievements of Ashoka the Great. So she is a very, very strong voice. She is a very, very strong and reliable. She is a reliable source. Okay. Now, as per Roma Taer, she is a renowned historian. Okay. Now, as per Roma Taer, okay, Roma Taer gives a different division of the Mauryan Empire. She doesn't go by the conventional division that we can divide the Mauryan Empire into 5 provinces. She tells us a very interesting thing. And what does she tell us? She informs us that first, all the territories which came under Mauryan Empire, she tells us that all the territories which came under Mauryan Empire were not at the same level of development. He tells us all the territories that came under Mauryan Empire were not at the same level of development. Okay, what she means is, if for example one area is slightly more developed, there was another area which was less developed than the previous area. So all the areas were not at the same level of cultural development. Okay, there were certain areas which were far more developed than the other areas. On the basis of this, okay, this is the basis on which she gives us her idea of the division of the Mauryan Empire. Okay, this is the basis. What I say just now is the basis according to her, and which makes complete sense. Okay, even if you look at the state of Assam, not all the areas of Assam, not all the districts of Assam are at the same level of cultural development. North and South Salmora are not at the same level of cultural development as, let's say, Dibrugarh or Sibsagar or Jorhat or Guwahati. So it makes complete sense. Based on this, Roma Taer gives us a different division of the Mauryan Empire. And according to Roma Taer, we can divide Mauryan Empire into 3 parts. According to C, I'm not using the word province anymore because she doesn't use the word province. She tells us that Mauryan Empire can be divided into 3 parts. Number one, metropolis. She tells us Mauryan Empire can be divided into 2 parts. Number 1 is metropolis. So by metropolis, she refers to Magadh. She refers to places like Magadh, or we can also say Patliputra. Patliputra would be more accurate because Patliputra was the seat, it was the capital of the Mauryan Empire. So, metropolis. Number 2, core areas. C-O-R-E, core areas. And she tells us that there are certain core areas, as the word core suggests. Core means what? Important areas. Core areas in terms of resources, core areas in terms of revenue, core areas. So, for example, Ujjain, Gandhar, Kaling, all these are core areas as per Roma Taer. All these were core areas in the Mauryan administration as per Roma Taer. All these were core areas. And the third part was peripheral areas. Peripheral areas included Mainly it included what? Mainly it included Central India. It included Central India and Deccan. It included Central India and Deccan. Central India, by Central India I am referring to places like modern day Madhya Pradesh, and by Deccan, I've already said this in the past multiple number of times, Deccan refers to the region which now comprises Indian states like Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra and the northern part of Karnataka. That region was known as Deccan. So, who all were living in these two regions? These two regions, Central India as well as Deccan, was primarily inhabited by a lot of tribal people. And it was a bit difficult, and because they were following their own customs, because they were living a totally different lifestyle than the lifestyle which was being adopted by the mainstream people, it was a bit difficult for the ruler to control these people. And these areas formed the periphery. These areas formed the periphery of the Mauryan Empire. So Romila Thapar uses the word peripheral areas. These were primarily inhabited by the tribal people. So it was a tribal belt. So Romila Thapar gives us this division. Romila Thapar gives us this division of the Mauryan Empire: metropolis, core areas, and peripheral areas. That there was a region called metropolis. Then we can divide or we can put certain areas under one common category known as core areas, and we can put certain other areas under one common category known as peripheral areas. Now, according to Romila Thapar, in connection with this division, what was the Mauryan policy? What was the Mauryan policy in connection with this division? What was the Mauryan policy? In connection with this, in connection with this particular division? What did they do about it? How did they manage things? Okay, now we know the division, but what do we make of this division? Now, as per Romila Thapar, the Mauryan policy was to do what? The Mauryan policy was to, like I said a short while ago, core areas were those areas which were giving a lot of revenue, which were giving a lot of revenue to, or which were giving the maximum amount of revenue to the Mauryan Empire, or core areas were those areas from where the Mauryan state is earning the most of its income. The most of its income is being earned from the core areas. So obviously they will play a very crucial role. They were very, very important. So the Mauryan policy was to extract as much revenue as possible from the core areas. The Mauryan policy was to earn as much as possible from the core areas, and to transfer that money to where? Obviously the money will be transferred to the capital, and to transfer that money to metropolis, that is Magad. Okay, on the one hand, Mauryan policy was to extract as much revenue as possible from the core areas, let's say from Ujjain, Gandhar and Kaling, to transfer that money to Magad or Patliputra, the capital, to transfer that money. And at the same time exerting or maintaining a solid level of control, at the same time maintaining a firm degree of control over the peripheral areas. Because like I said, peripheral areas they were mainly inhabited by tribes who were a bit difficult, who were a bit difficult to be managed. So at times the Mauryan administration, the Mauryan leadership, at times it had to be very firm. It had to exercise control over them, a strict control. It had to exercise a strict form of control over them. So as per Romila Thapar, the Mauryan policy was to extract as much revenue as possible from the core areas, transfer that money to the metropolis. Okay, whatever money it was earning from core areas, transfer that revenue to metropolis, because metropolis included the capital, and at the same time maintaining a firm control over the peripheral areas. That was the overall Mauryan foreign policy. That is what, not foreign policy, that was the overall Mauryan policy. That was what it attempted, that was what it aimed to do. That was its objective. That was its objective. That we need to extract as much revenue as possible from core areas, transfer the same to what? Transfer the same to metropolis, and at the same time we also have to keep a close watch. We also have to keep a strict control over what? We also have to keep a strict control over the peripheral areas. That was the overall Mauryan policy as per Roma Taer. Okay, thank you so much for watching this video. I will continue from this part in my next class. Thank you so much. Have a good day.